in just about 2 weeks, there's something happening here in Detroit to promote entrepreneurship. This is where the jobs of the future are, and to cultivate the great ideas for our city as we move forward. It's called the Urban Entrepreneurship Symposium. Joining us today, David Tarver, a technology entrepreneur, Leslie Smith, the president and CEO of TechTown, and also Michael Evans, senior developer with Loveland Technologies. If you detect a theme here, it is about technology and innovating and creating the future here in Detroit. David, you've been one of those guys who has taken that germ of an idea and watched it explode and grow. What is the key for anybody out there that's sitting on an idea but they just don't know how to take it and go with it?
That's what we want to introduce people to, how they can take those ideas, particularly those ideas that are aimed at making life better in our cities, and take that and develop it into something that really does good and also is profitable.
Okay, now Leslie, you've worked with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, a lot of the people that are helping to get these things to grow. They're the cultivators and farmers in our economy. What will be the role of people like TechTown and MEGC?
So we see our role as supporting all of the folks like David and Michael who are creating the ideas that solve the most pressing problems, getting them access to talent and capital and all the services they need to actually grow those businesses here in our city, answering our most desperate questions.
How are we doing right now? Because we talk a lot about the fact some people don't like to see tax cuts because that's helping business. We need to be putting that money elsewhere. But how are we doing with job creation right now and helping these companies grow?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of job creation at the small business level. So we're seeing 1, 2, 3 per small company that are sort of blowing up all around the city.
But that's where the most growth is, right? Not the big Fortune 500 guys.
Exactly. So we suffered a great loss from the big guys, but the small guys are filling the gaps.
All right, David, you're one of those guys that is a developer and is one of the startups and upstarts. What has been key for you in taking this to the next level, and what are you looking forward to learning more about in this entrepreneurship symposium?
So I'm speaking at the symposium, and it's been very interesting going forward in working with Loveland as we've had actual buy-in and feedback from the city to help push our stuff forward.
I'm sorry I called you David. It's Michael. My hard drive is crashing, unfortunately. I'll speak in your terminology. But in terms of what you need and what others like you need, we've seen Dan Gilbert with the Madison building, building this environment. How are we doing in Detroit with making this a welcoming place for TechTown and competing with the Silicon Valleys and the Massachusetts corridors and folks like that?
I think it's a world of difference than it was even a few years ago. Definitely seeing a lot more co-working spaces and things like that open up, and TechTown is doing their Junction 440, so that's
because
awesome.
A lot of these guys don't have 2 nickels to rub together. They need to put every penny they have into their business, and you need an affordable space, right?
Yep.
All right. Well, what else are we going to learn at this symposium?
Well, one of the things is we want to focus people on a few things. One is that this is a national issue and an international issue. This issue of people moving to cities, as of a few years ago, there are more people in cities than there are in other areas. And so we need to forge solutions that improve life in cities, and entrepreneurs can be key to that. Another thing we want people to understand is that there are people like Loveland out there already solving these problems on a small scale and also on a large scale. One of the speakers at the conference is Mike White from Uber, which is a $20 billion company that's solving an urban problem. So these urban solutions aren't just small companies. They're really solving problems and making life better.
Well, and you saw that it's going to be in Ann Arbor at the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Library. I noticed you've got your maize and blue tie on. So
what can I say?
Go
blue.
The host will be welcoming you, I'm sure. In the meantime, thank you so much for doing this, because I was at the Michigan Auto Summit yesterday, and the one thing they said that is key to us staying in the forefront in the auto industry too is technology.
Definitely.
Because that's where the growth
innovation
part of this business
innovation
and
is the
innovation and drawing talent here. So thanks for doing that.
Thank you.
All right.
The Blight Task Force is a group of philanthropic, business, and political leaders who are really coming up with actionable, on-the-ground solutions that are going to help solve these problems of blight today, not 10 years from now, not 15 years from now. These are actions that are going to be taken immediately to start getting rid of this problem in the city.
Typically, blight can refer to a lot of things. Regularly, it refers to like structures, so abandoned buildings, remnants of buildings, walls that are still standing where there used to be buildings. But it can mean like dumping on a site, just anything that's unsightly in a neighborhood could constitute as blight. Anything you wouldn't want there.
If you don't deal with the challenge of blight right now, when you have the opportunity to do it, the city may not recover the way that it could.
What you need to do with blight is attack it right away. You can't just rid out sections of it. You got to start working from the inside out.
There is now a coordinated approach to removing all blight within the city of Detroit.
It was important that residents that lived in each of these neighborhoods had an opportunity to get involved.
We took teams of residents and sent them out into the city to survey their own neighborhoods and understand exactly what's going on. The surveyors, they came in the morning, they got their tablets, they would meet up with their teams, get their assignments, so what area of the city they were going to be going to, get in the cars with their drivers, drive to that area, and they'd start taking pictures of every single house. They had a very specific set of criteria that they were looking to evaluate each building on.
Is there a house on site? Yes. Is residential. It's in good condition. It's occupied.
We, for the first time, had real-time information coming out about property information in the city, feeding into a system that was combined with data from the city, the county, the state, and even the feds to really understand what's going on in the city.
If you don't have the data, then it's really difficult to come up with recommendations that make any sense.
We're going to have an incredible amount of information about how to actually use data-driven decisions to fight blight in the city of Detroit.
Once the blight is removed, all sorts of potential and possibilities will exist.
Kids are going to be able to walk to school without having to worry about what's in that abandoned house next to them. Property values are going to go up.
We can be proud of our city once again and our neighborhoods.
It could totally change the quality of life for people in an entire neighborhood.
Once we start removing the blight, I think everyone in the world is really going to see what Detroit's really made of.
When I launched the DBC, it was supposed to be a small project. It was supposed to be this quick little thing that we showed that Detroit deserved transit, that it was something that the city could support and would help. Since then, DBC has grown into this big thing where we're solving all sorts of different transit issues, using all sorts of different methodologies. Hey, what's up? When we introduced our bus trackers, 6 months later, DDOT got bus trackers. They paid a company to install trackers in their buses that people could actually see where the buses are at. And I can't help but think that we pushed them out of the nest a little bit on that one. When you're making a $120 million bus system innovate, when you're pushing them to improve service a little bit, I can't feel that's a big win. I couldn't do what I did anywhere else in the world, honestly. I couldn't start a bus company in San Francisco. I couldn't start one in Europe. I mean, there's no reason for this bus company to exist anywhere else but Detroit. If I had tried this even in moderately expensive states, I would have been priced clean out of the market. The DBC isn't going to fix all transit here in Detroit. We'll never get big enough, nor do we ever plan to get big enough to take that on. There's no point in that. Busing is a public issue. It should be solved publicly, but we can innovate and build technologies and work towards solutions that make transit more affordable and serve more people. We will keep working in Detroit to fill the niches that are going unfulfilled, the people that are going unnoticed, and do our absolute best to get people moved in the city, to put the city back on wheels.
started as a dream. Like so many great things, an idea, an aspiration. How do you create a culture of entrepreneurship? We started with about 200 years worth of innovation and invention and brilliant minds. We put it in a region that's built on a foundation of industry and imagination and an endless drive to succeed. And now we're nurturing energy and enthusiasm, helping it grow, giving it the space and the support it needs to thrive. At the University of Michigan and the Center for Entrepreneurship, we're celebrating because the spirit that has always been here is now being unleashed. We've reached a new level. All systems are go. And we're celebrating heroes of entrepreneurship, those who are moving the University of Michigan forward, who are making a dream become reality.
Michigan is a world-class university today, but to stay in the best of the best, they're going to have a strong entrepreneurship fabric throughout the university.
I think the desired outcome is to create successful entrepreneurs who create jobs and they create a successful environment for themselves.
The ability to take the great research done here and then eventually spin it out and apply it to the public world and create companies and jobs and economic development are the perfect storm at Michigan. You have the world's best research institute coupled with an environment economically that wants to see that spin out and job creation. So I'm pretty excited to help be a catalyst in that process.
What America is good at and has always been prided itself on was being innovative. So I see the university being the incubator for pushing these students to their limits.
The foundation, it's right here. The ideas and creativity, ever present. We've reached a new level. Now, on to the next.
Uber's mission is to go to every major city in the world and roll out an efficient, convenient, elegant transportation system. I like to think that Uber is creating a new way of getting around cities. First use case that matters in a city is going out. Maybe it's date night or maybe it's going out to the clubs with friends, but very quickly it starts to move into daytime use. You get used to pushing that button at night on Friday or Saturday, then you're stuck between meetings and you need to get somewhere. And it sort of works its way from the weekend into the weekday. That simplicity around not having to think about how I'm going to get from point A to point B is huge. In cities around the world, especially the major ones, you have a very stagnant transportation ecosystem. A lot of times they don't work. Bringing innovation to this world, which in many cases really hasn't been innovated on in decades, can really bring diversity to a system that hasn't seen a lot of that. Uber is everyone's private driver, and the drivers are the lifeblood of Uber. We're bringing that kind of experience to the masses.
I started with one car and right now I have several cars. I couldn't see myself managing 5, 6, 7 drivers without Uber. I would have to have a whole office, dispatcher, and now it's easy.
I set my hours around my kids' school. Once I take care of them, then I can schedule any day, anytime I want to work. The freedom is the big component of my decision to join Uber.
So much about cities is how you get around them. If you can bring real efficiency, real convenience, and real comfort to how you move around that city, you can change the way people live in that city.
Welcome to Detroit, the new watchmaking capital of America, where a long-gone industry is beginning its ascent. Here, in 30,000 square feet of Midtown. Using steel, leather, and labor to make watches of quality that haven't been made this way in this country for more than 40 years. It's an effort to retake our place, out on the factory floor. It takes work to return to form, but we're up for it, starting with the reinvigoration of a storied American brand and of this storied American city. We are also crafting hand-built bicycles and leather goods made with hides from America's oldest working tannery. We are doing this because we believe in the beauty of industry, the glory of manufacturing. We know there's not just history in this town, there's a future. It's why we came. Creating a community that will thrive through excellence of craft and pride of work. Shinola, where American is made.
There's a lot of development and investment being made in the downtown and midtown areas of Detroit. Detroit is a huge city, and so SWAT City was really developed to answer the question, what about everybody else?
In Brightmoor, we know that the per capita income in the community is well below the poverty line. TechTown is helping small businesses and entrepreneurs in this community succeed.
I think my main struggle and challenge early on was being so passionate about what I do. I didn't realize the business part of it. You'll go down the street and you might not see but one house. But I do this because I want to make sure that the children have a place to go to. And I'm sorry, y'all. And where there's love, and that the parents have somewhere to drop their kids off so that they can go to work and feel comfortable and not be worried about them.
Banks aren't making loans in neighborhoods like Brightmoor, not yet. I mean, we've talked to the local banks, and what we've said is we'll get these entrepreneurs ready to be borrowers of your bank in 3 to 5 years.
Each week I'm supposed to meet a certain goal, so it's not like they are doing all the work, it's a teamwork.
We've retained 53 jobs. We've added 1 new business, and there are 6 in the pipeline that will be opened within the coming couple of months.
And it actually seeds hope in a place where hope is sorely needed.
You know, the Detroit question is another question that is oftentimes asked. You know, why Detroit? So many people think of Detroit as this city with the burned out buildings and you know, decrepit buildings that are full of asbestos and lead paint and whatnot. And you know, we've taken a completely different path in Detroit, as we have in the watch industry. You know, everyone's going right, we're going left. And we believe that that's what we're doing in Detroit. You know, in Detroit, what we have done is we have set up shop in the College for Creative Studies. Initially, what we wanted to do is we wanted to find a building in Detroit and tell the story of us refurbing that building and putting a watch factory in that building and doing what we're doing today. But we decided that as we were doing that, we decided that the partnership with the College for Creative Studies would be much more beneficial to the brand, and it was an incredible collaboration between Shinola and the College for Creative Studies. And so in Detroit, what we have found is that the people of that city are there, and they're all wanting to help one another. They're all wanting to push the next guy forward. They're all wanting to see each other succeed. And so from that point of view, that was a major catalyst in helping us shift. And then when you're looking at manufacturing in the US, specifically for engines, where else do you go? You go to Detroit, you know? We're making engines. Our engines are quartz movements, right? The guys down the street, they're making big blocks. They're making Hemis. They're making et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Different engines, different scales, right? But so what we have found also in regards to manufacturing is there's an incredible talent pool in Detroit, right? The people there are motivated. They want to move the city forward. They want to see the city progress. And they're innovative folks as well, and they get what we're doing. And so we've been able to train at this point. We have about 15 folks working in the factory who are assembling movements. Some of those folks never knew that there was a need for a movement in a watch. But we have brought in the talent from Rhonda to help train those folks and really get the factory up and running. And so like I said earlier, we've produced 50,000 movements in Detroit. That hasn't been done in this country in many decades. You know, we have built a factory in Detroit in the College for Creative Studies that has the capacity in its current state to produce 500,000 watches annually. And that factory has been producing quartz movements, assembling quartz movements over the past 12 months. We've produced just at 50,000 quartz movements. And if you know much about the history of watchmaking in the United States, there's no more watchmaking happening at scale in the US today. And so doing what we're doing is a major shift in the industry as a whole. And so we believe that if we're able to produce watches in Detroit, we can make anything in Detroit. And you know, this entire project has been pulled together by, you know, literally hundreds of people, you know, coming together around the world to create products that are of the highest quality and have integrity about them and passion that comes into the product as well.
You are what you eat. That's what they say. Two young entrepreneurs are trying to change the quality of what Detroiters call a meal.
A lot of people don't have the option to eat healthy. A lot of people don't have access to private transportation. And so what happens is people are relying on their corner store for a lot of their food needs.
And unless I miss my guess, the most popular items going out the door before you got there on these corner stores were things like pop and potato chips.
Yeah, did you know Detroit is the #1 potato chip consumer in the entire country?
Now I do.
Noam Kimmelman and Val Waller want to change that. Fresh Corner Cafe makes, distributes, and sells healthy alternatives where Detroiters actually shop, the corner stores and lunch stands.
We go to all of our locations and we do sampling to get people to try our products, and then people are like, whoa, this is really awesome, and they start to look for us.
The idea for Fresh Corner Cafe started during Noam's time as a grad student at Michigan. A native of Boston, he knew little about our city.
My roommate was like, don't ever go to Detroit. And if you do, bring weapons and a club.
Now he lives here, and along with partners including Val, a Detroit native, they distribute to 36 stores and have a 10-person staff. They're seeking investors to grow even more.
As far as Detroiters' eating habits, it's not that they don't want to, it's just if it's never been available, you know, you can't can't bridge the gap. Like, people don't, if you don't know, you can't do.
Young entrepreneurs are welcome in Detroit. Entrepreneurs making us healthier are even more valued.
Kid is trim, slim. He says, obviously he's eating his own food, so you should just stand up and be a
fresh corner diet.
There you go. You say, be as skinny as gnome.
Fresh ideas from fresh faces. The Fresh Corner Cafe is creating healthier bodies in the heart of Detroit.
Sheila, welcome to Detroit Wants to Know.
Thank you for having me.
How are you helping to solve this problem? There's no affirmative action. What are you doing to boost student achievement?
We're making our students aware of the academic requirements that are set for getting into college, as well as if they're a student athlete, those academic requirements are oftentimes higher than what the school is requiring them to have in order to play a sport. Therefore, it's not benefiting our kids any. So we have to put our kids in a situation to where they're striving to achieve a higher GPA and take better courses so that they can stay in the runnings.
Okay, this gradecheck.net was born out of your son's experience at Creighton University. Tell us about that.
Yes. Well, how the NCAA eligibility came about, my son's father was the first Division I college athlete who admitted to the world that he was functionally illiterate.
Your son's father?
My son's father.
Okay.
And I was literally 18 at the time, 17 turning 18. And that really shook the world because we always knew that there were athletes being pushed through school based on their athletic abilities and not on their academic standings.
Okay. Gradecheck.net has four portals on its website.
Yes.
And you have one for students, which I can understand. That's where you go through the grade things. You have another one for parents, which you tell them what to look for and if their school is really performing.
Exactly.
But you have another one for educators. Tell me about that educator portal on your website.
Well, what GradeCheck also does is we're bridging a gap. We're filling in the gap that with the educators, the counselors oftentimes have a 1 to 700 ratio, 1 to 400 ratio of students that they have to track and help to get into college. And sometimes that could be a little bit much, especially if the counselors have more on their plate than they can handle, okay? So to have GradeCheck a part of the process, we can help get those kids, ready so that they can go to college. And that is what we do on a daily basis.
On a daily basis. Now, how do you help students? I saw you had ACT prep.
Yes, what we do, we take a student's high school transcript and compare it to any high school in the country against the NCAA eligibility academic requirements, okay? And so we give the students an academic roadmap of making sure that they're on track, taking the right courses, the right classes, they have the right GPA, and they have the right test score. And that's very critical, especially with the national test average for our African American students. It's a 17. And for our student athletes, oftentimes I'm seeing a 14, 15, 10, what have you.
In Detroit, it's what, 15, 16 average across?
Absolutely, especially with the athletes. So it's important for our athletes to take that test more than one time and not just rely on their junior year to take the test, because that can really put them behind. So we're making them aware and helping the educators know that we're existing so that we can be a supplemental tool to help get those kids from high school into college.
Do you advocate children starting to take the ACT, SAT when they're in the 8th grade?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because what that's going to do is it will break down those barriers, and even if they don't have a good test, if they take it again and again, the NCAA will take the highest in each category, and what they call that a super score. But the NCAA also uses that in order to try to maximize a student's eligibility. And being able to receive an athletic scholarship, an academic scholarship, is just as important.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for coming on. That website address is gradecheck.net.
Yes.
At the Ross School, we fundamentally believe, at our core, that business can be a force for positive change in the world. For the past 20 years, we have come into the city of Detroit and done community service projects as part of our onboarding of our new students. That Ross Impact Challenge this year will be the Back to School Fair.
We are hosting a Back to School Fair Thursday, August 29th from 3 to 6 p.m. at Detroit's Eastern Market. And that is our challenge. Over the course of the next 4 days, we are going to design this fair and deliver it for some 1,000 plus kids and their families. That is our challenge. Your purpose today is observation, to learn about what it might be like to be a Detroit student. Delay your solutions. Observe and try to understand what the needs of these kids might be.
In 7 products or services or experiences, changing or creating a culture. From our experience, because all of us have this in common, we have a culture of studies.
Kids need to get inspiration from resources and awareness so they can reach their potential. That's the need.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
Then the next station would be a University of Michigan sponsored photo booth where students could take pictures of themselves in the future, potentially with University of Michigan caps and gowns, placards, class of 2000.
My daughter, her biggest accomplishment in 3rd grade was learning how to spell orange pop. Because she couldn't have orange pop until she learned how to spell it. So she learned really, really quick how to spell orange pop. Small challenges are things that are cool for them, because it's not just I'm going to school and I'm gonna learn something, because they don't think that's for them. They think that they're doing it because my mom told me to go to school.
Boy, Monday seems like a long time ago, doesn't it? Yeah. When we were together Monday morning, we were talking about the fact that one of the things that we hope will happen through the Ross Leadership Initiative is that you will become leaders who make a positive difference in the world. One of America's foremost social entrepreneurs, he pioneered the idea of creating a for-profit company to achieve a social mission. Please join me in giving a warm University of Michigan welcome to Peter Thu.
Why am I doing this? Not just why do I go to work on this, but why would I go to work at all? What's the point of my work? There's an 11-year-old who's going to change your life. There's an 11-year-old out there somewhere in 5th grade who's going to change the whole world before you can even think. And so what that means for you is that you're going to have to think about these questions over and over and over again.
Think about the process you just went through. You started on Monday morning, and you're brought together into this room to get the process started on coming up with a product. And here we are 3 days later, and you do have a product, but I'm sure it was a bumpy road.
You know what you want to be? Police officer. That's awesome. You have to go to the police academy for that, right?
Yeah, so this is a battery in here. When you connect it, the motor spins and it turns these things. You know what these are called? They're called pistons. You know the basketball team, the Pistons? That's what they're named after.
You all are absolutely amazing. What you did this week, the seemingly impossible goal that you came together to achieve in such a very short amount of time, the impact you had on these kids. I firmly believe that 10 to 15 years from now, one of these kids is going to walk into my office at the University of Michigan and say, today is what made the difference, and helped me get on a path that led me to the University of Michigan. And that's because of you. Thank you very, very much.